So we're all wrestling in our mind, and we're all doing it silently. And us as an industry, and as entrepreneurs, we're hurting. It's hard. The last year's been tough. And a lot of us are, those same questions that I just asked, there's people listening, they're going through that right now. And it's like, all right, God, I know you only kept me here just to literally say, hey, you're going to be all right. You're figuring it out. Wrestle with those questions. Don't resent those questions. Those are the good things. That's the good stuff. You're pursuing the higher things, the things that actually matter. But real estate was my vessel to get me there.
Welcome back to the Pursuit of Property podcast. And today, dude, I am freaking excited for today's podcast. Today, we have CEO, founder of the Shawn Team based out of Tulare/Visalia, Blake Shawn. Dude, welcome onto the pod.
Yes, I feel like I made it. I made it. Hi, Tulare. I'm over here in Fresno hanging out with Clovis peeps.
I am not from Clovis. I'm going to redact that immediately. Dude, it's cool.
I catch the shit for being in Clovis, even in Fresno.
All the time, just because, like, Tulare's like ragtag. In sports, like, we're good because we're scrappy, but our uniforms suck. So every time we'd go play Clovis, we'd get judged because they got matching cleats, matching baseball bags, and we're like lucky if our shoelaces were matching.
Yep.
It's a different thing, but
well, for Clovis
here we
people.
are.
Dude, I'm glad that you're on the pod. You and I
Yes.
have bumped into each other, I think literally maybe twice, and so it's a great opportunity for me to get to know you. I've only heard good things. If you're from Fresno, you may not know of Blake because we tend to stay kind of North Valley, South Valley kind of a thing. But if you have any needs in the South Valley, Blake is a huge resource. He already has been for us. So we're glad to have you on, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Can you tell us, I was told by Cade that you got in the business pretty much younger than we did. So when did you start in real estate?
Yeah, so officially licensed in 2014.
Wow.
But was in property management before that.
How old were you when you started in property management?
So I was probably about 22.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. And how did you get into property management?
So gets kind of where, like, none of us end up in real estate necessarily by design. I didn't wake up when I was 5 and like, Mom, I know what I want to be. I want to be a realtor. She's like, you made it, son. It wasn't that. So I was actually pre-med kinesiology at Cal Poly. I love baseball. Wanted to almost played summer ball at Cuesta instead of going to Cal Poly, but decided I wanted to party at Cal Poly more than play baseball at Cuesta. So that was that decision making. But essentially, and this is going to get long, and I don't know if it's appropriate or not. I wasn't even planning on sharing this, but in college, I got really good at selling drugs. And I love partying. I didn't want to work. There was all sorts of avenues to do that in. I'm from the Valley. There's people from up north and down south that's, wanting to party hard. And us in the Valley, like, we already party hard, like in high school.
Yeah.
Or at least on my side. So anyway, I got really just beaten and bruised by trying to be cool.
Yeah.
And had a lot of pride, had a lot of ego, carried around with me. And it essentially wrecked me. But in that wrecking, I actually found that I loved business. It wasn't drugs that I loved. I was hurt. So I was using drugs and selling drugs to other hurt people. But I was hurt and I was broken, and I found joy in just serving people.
Yeah.
And it sounds kind of cliche and sad, but like the service in the evil is what brought me to the good. And like, I challenge people, like, explore whatever that looks like for you, because, man, me wanting to be good never made me good. It was me, like, having to be passionately curious about all things and figuring out what I actually wanted. So for me, that was the business. It's like, okay, what is the underlying things here, Blake, outside of your hurt and trauma and things that you're trying to escape from? What is it that you loved about this? There was something more there. And it was the people. And so I boiled it down, and then it became, what's the most expensive thing that I can sell legally?
And that's an interesting thing. I don't want to be like crude or too
okay.
straightforward, but like any drug dealer that's making like real money would be a very often, if they got off drugs, they'd be fantastic business owners, because fortunately or unfortunately, it's a business.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of money in it.
Yeah, there is.
And so if you can set yourself up in that world, if you're struggling with that right now, there's an easy transition out, because there's a lot of legal things that you can sell that bring a lot of good to the world.
Yes.
That still implement your skills, right?
Dude, and I love that you just say it like that, because it's been very hard for me. And I'm talking about this openly now, but this is guilt and shame that I've had to carry around for years and battle by myself in dark corners, and still figuring out like, hey, God, you still love me. Like, hey, am I still worth being alive? Is what I'm doing worth doing? Like, all of these deep questions, and I resented those questions and actually felt like I was sinning by even having them. And really, like, I just got loved on by people that told me, like, Blake, your best effort still isn't enough, and that's okay, and that's cool. And so, like, I had to go through this death and then rebirth, and I almost feel like when that happened, probably around 2021, it's been this evolution where every year, every couple years, every few years, I'm dying to myself again, and something has to give birth again, because the version of myself that got me to the next level isn't the same character profile that it's going to take to go to the next one. So it's constantly death, life, death, life, death, life. But no one waves a flag and say, hey, you're dying to this self now, and this one needs to come out. No one's telling us that. So we're all wrestling in our mind, and we're all doing it silently. And us as an industry, as entrepreneurs, we're hurting. It's hard. The last year's been tough. And a lot of us are, those same questions that I just asked, there's people listening, they're going through that right now. And it's like, all right, God, I know you only kept me here just to literally say, hey, you're going to be all right. You're figuring it out. Wrestle with those questions. Don't resent those questions. Those are the good things. That's the good stuff. You're pursuing the higher things, the things that actually matter. But real estate was my vessel to get me there. And so I'll preach and tell people to the end, jump in real estate. Yeah, let it wreck you. I hope it kills you. Not literally, but I hope the part of you that got you in here, I hope that part dies, because there's a new version of yourself that this is going to give birth to that the world needs. It has to happen. And this is what real estate did for me. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of religious undertones. We openly talk about our faith on the podcast.
Okay.
Feel free to talk openly about yours, but it sounds like you've got a deep religious undertone to your worldview. Where do you go to church?
Yeah, so I would say I'm a Christian. I've been to all sorts of churches. I think I said it before the podcast, but I'm a disruptor, and I'm a disruptor in all things. I don't believe God sent me here to be just a disruptor in real estate industry, in my family, in my friend group. Same thing with the church. So I don't mind going in and disrupting churches if I feel like the posture of the heart's off, because God was never after a performance. He was after a heart. And when we start aligning our posture and our heart to the right thing, we start to see things the way that we were meant to see them. So it's not people's fault a lot of times when they're hurting. They're just not seeing things clearly. How can I bring clarity to you in this season? So I started asking myself those questions. Mind you, it took me 10 years to get here, selling a lot of property, figuring out that money and numbers don't really do much for me, and I still was hurting. But now my purpose here is, let me show off some of the cool stuff I've done in real estate to get in front of people that I get to love on deeply. Like, I want to go deeper with people. I was shallow a lot of my life, and I just don't want to be that anymore. So,
well, dude, that makes me want to know and wonder, how has your relationship with God, as it's went through the evolutions and the growth and the highs and lows that it's had, how has your relationship with God affected your relationship with real estate?
It made it secondary. And what I mean by that is real estate was my God. And I say that lightly, but not. Because real estate, owning property, having a big bank account, those were all my idols. And I held them above things that actually mattered. And it stole the joy from everything that I was working for. And I realized that if I can get everything that I want and still be empty, like maybe I'm pursuing the wrong things. And God was like, what I started in you, I will finish, but you're going to have to trust me to die to that version of you that got you here. And I was like, but it's all I know and it's my safe spot. I mean, I didn't go into the depth of the addiction, but I got kicked out of Cal Poly. My parents found out what I was doing. My real dad was the one that introduced me to every drug I've ever done and sold. What does it mean to be a son? You know?
There's a lot to unpack there too, because what does it mean to even have I mean, God's obviously referred to as father, but if your
perception
human
of what it
father
looks like
is that who leads you into temptation, that has to be a hard discerning process. I commend you, because it sounds like 10 years doesn't sound like a long time to go from where you were to where you are. And I think you played it off like 10 years was a long time. But I mean, how many people do we know that fought addiction for 60 years and died to that battle?
Yeah.
You know, so it demonstrates that passionate curiosity you were talking about. I mean, there's a lot of really hard questions you have to ask.
Well, and the reason why I had to ask those questions is I gave up everything that I thought I wanted because I just wanted a relationship with my dad. And I had a great stepdad. Still do. I call him, he's my dad. Like, he raised me since I was 5, you know? But there was just always that part, like, what was it that kept you away from me? And so I was willing to lose it all to figure that out. And so I did. I went homeless with him for a little while, between Tulare and Bakersfield. My family, the other part of the family, the good part of my family that kept me straight and safe my whole life, essentially had nothing to do with me at this point. I was valedictorian in my high school, star baseball player, and then 2 years later, I'm walking homeless in Tulare on those streets. So when people say, why do you love Tulare so much? Well, I know them. I walk the shadows. Like, I know every nook and cranny, I know every alleyway, and I know every person in there. And so it's like, I have to believe that God only kept me alive to love on that place, even though for whatever reason it's disregarded and passed by. But we know that all of the things, the people and the places that are passed by are the ones that God chooses to thrive in. So I just chose to believe, you know what? You can use someone like me, and you can use a place like Tulare to bring you glory. You've done it from the beginning of history until the end of time. You will do that. So Lord, I trust you. But Lord, you gotta kill every version of me that's trying to come out that isn't of you, because I don't want it anymore. And I think the hard part is God doesn't take everything away like that. But he says, I see your heart, son, and I love you right where you are. And I have enough grace to walk through that for however many years it takes. So I still battle addiction. I still have to go to those dark places and battle those thoughts. The reason I'm so down to earth is because there is no part of me that thinks I have made it. Until every day that I'm here is borrowed time. I've been attempted to be murdered 3 times when I was on the streets. It was gnarly. I had to learn, we talk about race a lot, but you have to learn the jailhouse rules. I'm a white guy. I had to wear certain shoes on certain blocks. Like, I had to do things that you look at me and you're like, there's no way that kid. Yeah, I did. And by the grace of God, I survived it, but I wasn't supposed to. So yeah, I understand that every day is borrowed for me. So yeah, I take risky things. Yeah, I'll go in debt for some stuff, but I won't go in debt now, or I'll go in debt any day for the right things. I'm all about the investing. I know good debt. Ramsey, sorry, suck it. But just kidding. If you're, there's a
time and a place.
Time and place. 99% is probably really good for, and I can maybe take some more notes. But in general, after this last year, I lost so much. I took on a brokerage. Overhead went up 300%. Real estate shot down 60%. I lost more than I ever lost. And I was like, God, we're here again. I had to battle those same thoughts. And it's like, he's like, son, until you go, like, you're always going to have to battle this. I think a lot of us don't think we're growing or we're sick or whatever because we still have to battle the same things. Those are the things that keep us, like, humbled enough to realize we need someone or something bigger than us to lead the way because we ain't got it. And so last year I came to that spot and I was like, what do I do from here? I started selling off my properties. Like, he's like, well, what do you want to invest in? I said, people. He's like, then throw it in your team. Sell everything you have, if that's what it takes. Keep this thing alive because this is the vehicle, not the property, this. So I'm going deep with my people right now. And there's only a handful of them that honestly have stuck around through this metamorphosis of mine, because how I'm talking to you is how I talk to them openly in a big conference room. And I say, I can only give you what I have. And right now I don't have much, but if you want to stick by my side, I'll stick by yours too. I'll plant my 2 feet with yours, and whatever you're going through, I'll be in it with you. But I had to figure out that I can't continue to give what I don't have. So in that breaking, I found boundaries. I found setting better expectations, having more quality conversations. That's what mattered. And then for whatever reason, I don't even care if it turns out to be successful or not. I found the greater thing. Hence, I know I will be successful.
Yeah.
Because the success is a byproduct of the righteousness, not the other way around. So why aren't we pursuing the righteousness, asking the questions that matter? And so as an industry, let's do that. Let's go to the leaders. Let's even go to maybe the people that are at the top because we know they're hurting, maybe because they won't act like it. But like, I'm praying for some of the big dogs out there because I know they got to be going through it, but they're putting on a face right now because I've had to put on a face and it's been heavy and hard. But like, there's help.
Do you feel like you had to get to a certain level of success in order for you specifically to realize that that monetary success wasn't what was going to get you there?
Totally. So I went from on the streets at 21 to buying a house at like 25, I think. And like, I wasn't ready for that, you know? I'm going to take a drink of water because I'm about to go on another rant for you guys.
No, it's interesting because I don't know if Cade told you, but we got into an Ironman and he was also homeless and now he is very successful. And I feel like Cade and I never went through that specific struggle, but we both very much empathize with the people who have and understand that by all means, you guys have much more knowledge than we do about what's important in life.
And I would say yes and thank you, but understand that wherever you are, you're still going to the depths in your mind. Whether the circumstance or the environment around you looks a certain way is kind of irrelevant. The things that go on up here and how you shoot those vertically and contemplate them and question them, it don't matter if you went through a lot or a little. My perspective might be what it is, and I might, have a little more grace in me because I've just been so messed up and gone through so much. But in general, I have no doubt that you guys have had to go to deep places in your head and ask some of the questions that I've had to ask. It's just looked different,
Yeah.
So
You went from homeless. I mean, I would never have been able to guess that based on what you do now. You said you weren't ready to buy a house when you were 25, but you did?
Yeah. So there's a man that comes into the scene by the name of Kevin Blaine. And I joined Keller Williams. I was Rookie of the Year in 2015, I think. That's when I joined them. And then 2016, he was like, Blake, I got to have you. Like, you're supposed to be on my team. He asked me 3 times. I said no. But then his wife, Danny, which is now my mother-in-law, small world. And at the time, I am engaged to another girl. So I'm joining this team. The only reason I joined this team was because my fiance at the time said, Blake, you have to take this. This looks more solid. This looks more stable for what we're going to do, you know? And so anyway, I decided to say yes, thanks to my fiance. I was stubborn. I was like, no, I'm going to do this myself. Like, I'm going to get it done, you know? Like, I can do this. But anyway, so I said yes. 2 weeks before the wedding, she says, hey, I'm not showing up. I said, what? Like, and I did everything right. So mind you, I'm coming off the streets. I get in a relationship. I'm going to church every day, or every week. Like, I'm doing the stuff. I'm doing this thing. I even think we remain like abstinent, dude. Like, I was like, I am going to be holy. I'm going to fix myself. I was bad, you know, and we do that, the pendulum, right? We go on these polar opposites. So this was my swing. And then 2 weeks, she's like, yeah, I'm just not going to show up. And I was like, God, like, but like, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, right? And I was selling real estate at the time. Now I'm on the Kevin Blaine team. And it's like, I didn't even want to join this team. She made me join it. It's like, but I'm here now, so I'm going to stick it out and see what's going on. And so I stick it out and slinging a bunch of houses. Kevin's building up this, I mean, at the time it's already 400 some houses a year. Goes up to 800, 1,000, 1,200, 1,400 is what it ends up at. I think at its very peak with like 70 or 80 some odd people. But I went assistant team leader and then general manager of that before being recruited to go be team leader of Keller Williams in Paso Robles. So that was, I know there's so much here that I have to unpack with you guys, but
no, it's fascinating.
In general, like that was that path. And so Mia, my wife, was a photographer on the Kevin Blaine team at the time. And so me and my fiance, we break up. I'm into Mia, like totally openly, like pursuing, open flirting in the office, like inappropriate, you know. She wants nothing to do with me. But at that time, it's okay because I'm like, I go hard again for just a little bit. Like, I let out some party rages and stuff that I had cooped up for a few years. Mm-hmm. And that's where I say the addiction stuff, it never goes away. I just have to learn how to deal with myself better and deal with this thing up here. So, yeah, that's how I get to meet my wife, is on this team. But then me and I get married in April of 2018. That's the same month that I start in Paso Robles, and Kevin commits suicide 2 weeks after I start work over there. And I get a call from Danny at Keller Williams, and she's just beside herself. And it's still probably one of the hardest things I've had to think about and flesh out. To just part of the heart that you see is because he just lost that battle to his mind. And I know there was nothing that any of us necessarily could have done, but a lot of us are still picking up the pieces from what that looks like. And by the grace of God, like, he's just kept all of us. That man did a lot of things for the community and just for real estate in general. And there's been a big gap and a big hole in our area since he's been gone. But when that happened, everyone on the team was like, hey, you're coming back, right? Like, you're going to come back and like help lead this thing, right? And I said, no. I said, it's not my time. And I just knew in that moment that my time was being away from this all with my wife so that we could just figure out our stuff, because we weren't doing too hot at the time. And so we stayed over there and we weathered it for a year. And some of the hardest times, I mean, extracted from everyone and everything, but just me and my wife figuring it out. And yeah, so I don't even remember where the beginning of the question.
I want to lead into, because I think this segues into, you talk a lot about your people, mm-hmm. right? You talked about, the vehicle, with the light switch turned. The vehicle was not real estate or mm-hmm. property. The vehicle was people. And the segue happens, I'm assuming, after, the year or so over in Paso Robles, the move back happens and the seeds are planted for the growth of what is now the Shawn Team.
And that's exactly it.
Can you talk about a little bit how that transition happens and and the two-parter is I want to equate it back to also the light switch that happened when you said, hey, I'm going to flip this light switch and instead of real estate being God, God is going to be God and real estate's going to be real estate.
Yeah.
How does that shift affect all of these seeds that are planted for the growth of what is now the Shawn Team?
Such a great question. And it's something that I'm still wrestling. And it's what I said in the beginning, God, how my drive and my competitive nature and all of these things, God, like, how can I still be in this industry and compete at a high level without that same? And he was like, Blake, you still have that. I actually gave that to you from the beginning and it's a good thing. Posture your heart correctly in it and I will do wonderful things. And so I am still competitive. I still want to win. I still want to sell a bunch of houses. And we will. But I just have to train my brain every day. The work is not me selling houses. The work is me reminding myself every day where my priorities are, because what's most important. And so how I view work is different now. What does that look like? What does it look like to achieve something? What does an accolade look like to you now? And it's still good to have, I'd love, 1.2 mil, like every year. I want $100,000 months for our company, like every month. And that's going to happen. And I want us to go over 1,000 houses every year. And I know that's going to happen. However, when it happens, if I'm not working on training myself that my wife is most important, that my kids are most important, that quality time with them, that engaging in deep relationships with people are most important. Everything that I achieve, it's a clanging gong. It's noise. And it doesn't help anyone because now I can't be my true self at that level. What a horrific thing to have to fake it and then be there and try to coach people on how to be where they are when they're not happy. Like, it's the greatest tragedy in life to be living and still be dead.
Yeah.
Like,
How do you, what does that internal dialogue look like to like set your priorities straight on a daily basis? Because on the big picture, it's clear that you've thought through the biggest, but how did you whittle it down to the day-to-day actions?
Yeah, from the help of others. To be honest, I can't really get too small without engaging another person to help me because I am big picture. I am constantly, and part of that is I used to be really good at some of those littler things, but I had to create a world that was big enough for other people to fit in. Therefore, I had to start casting vision that was huge. And not only casting vision, I had to believe it. And so then it's working backwards from that, but then bringing on the right people that have the insight, the knowledge, and the know-how that maybe I never figured out along the way because I just know how to sell houses. Now I know how to sell houses and love people. I'm still figuring out processes, systems, procedures, protocols, roles, responsibilities, all of that stuff. But I'm doing it by walking it out with the people that I want to do life and work with instead of by myself. Because then even if I do it by myself, I'm fitting people in a box that they may not want to be in, even though they're going to tell me yes. So I have to be willing to build with someone, and I have to be willing for them to walk away in order to create something great. Because that's just me. I don't want to do it by myself. And so I've been through business partners and things and learned a lot along the way. And after this last year, I was like, God, do I just need to be solo? And he was like, what, and give up the only thing that really matters? Loving on people? I was like, okay, check. It hurts, but that's the truth. So I would say I bit the bullet and did whatever it took for as long as I could until it was absolutely necessary to leverage. But now I'm like full leverage. Like I will figure out a way because the time and energy is most important for me so that I can cast a bigger vision. Because now we're getting at a level, it's like the next step is going to get gnarly. We're there. The 10 years, the airplane's built. We're on the runway now. It's going to get fun, but it's going to push us back in our chair. So like, I got to have a bunch of people that are mentally ready for that and also have the heart for it because I want them excited when they get the payday.
Yeah.
But how do you do that when you can't offer much in the time being?
That's true.
Well, in doubling down on people,
Yep.
you mentioned you've been through business partners. I'm sure that relationships with people it's a whirlwind, right? And especially through these growing pains of building what you are building. What is the internal dialogue, or even what does it look like when bridges are burned and the matches are lit and thrown and your Blake is left in the trenches trying to pick up the pieces, but still trying to keep front of mind that you need to love on people when people are burning what you're building?
This is the exact dialogue. It is an honor to do it. It is not a burden. It is a privilege. God graced me with enough to be able to do it. Hallelujah. He gave me enough resources to pay off the debts that other people may have owed. But don't let that make sense. I can freely pay others' debts at this point because mine's been freely paid for. There's a concept that's deeper than numerics. And until you understand those concepts and apply them, it's lip service. And so I had to go through months of agitation and Lord, like I'm literally paying 6 figures of debt for people that said they were my partner. We said we were going to do this. And he was like, consider it joy. I gave you enough. And then some. You can set them free and yourself all at the same time. Do you want it? I said, okay, cool. So I did it. And that's where I say concepts like everything that I have isn't mine anyway. If I viewed it as such, I wouldn't. I have to understand that concept. Time is not mine. Energy is not mine. Money is not mine. Resources, everything, my wife, my kid, nothing is mine. But thank you, God, for letting me borrow it for a little bit. I love that you gave me my wife. Like, out of all things, I get to go home to that. Like, I didn't feel like I would ever deserve that. God, you gave me a kid. I wanted to be dead so bad, God, and you kept me alive even though I didn't want to be. And then you felt like I deserved to make another life. Do those other things really matter? That's the dialogue. And sometimes it's every hour. And that's why it's work. But consider it joy. It's an honor to do that work. It's the greater thing. So it's become pretty easy. And I do like time with myself now. I love car drives down here. It's like, just like, I didn't have worship music on. I had some weird techno stuff, but I was still praising God in it, getting weird. Like, me and God are it's like, I want everyone to be friends with God like I am. I want everyone to be as messed up as I was if they get to experience how freeing this is. Because guys, my circumstances haven't changed a lot. I'm still in debt. I'm still battling out of some of last year. But I'm just so solid on the promise of what I'm pursuing is the greater thing, that results are secondary and there's freedom in that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that I still don't stress, because I do. I still do all the stuffs on all the things that we all do.
Welcome to being human.
That's right. But there's peace in that. There's even grace in that. Like, hallelujah, I'm only human. But also, thank God, he chose to dwell. I believe I have the power of God living in me. When you hear me talking, it's only because I believe that. If I didn't really believe that, I wouldn't be speaking with the authority that I have right now. I know who I belong to. I know what I'm here to do. I know why I'm here. Those are the greatest questions in life. So yeah, I'm free. I'm still figuring a lot out. Still messing up a lot, but yeah.
Dude, this is crazy. I think we've done a lot better job at picking people who bring a lot more to the table than just how many houses we sell. I have a couple questions, and these are self-interested.
Yeah.
I'm recently married. I'm coming up on 1 year.
Congrats, dude.
Thank you. And you know how hard the first year is, especially just the adjustments that need to be made internally, because I thought I knew that it was going to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And I had so many good mentors and just father figures who are great examples in their relationship say it's not going to be what you think it's going to be. And then at the same time, all of my friends are getting married, and a lot of them listen to the podcast. And a lot of them are making big career changes right now, just the same way that your fiance had asked you to switch to, a more stable job. They're having the same request.
Yep.
What kind of conversations did you have with your wife that helped you get through that to that next level? Because I have to guess that you wouldn't be sitting here where you are right now if your wife was not fully bought in both the religious undertones and the business undertones that you're talking about. And so I'm just curious, what did that look like?
It's present tense because it's a living organism. It's not figured out, but I'll be very transparent from my side of things, walking this out.
Yeah.
Mia's stepdad committed suicide in the industry that I am called to lead. That's been a lot for her. She despises real estate.
I would too.
She despised it. She doesn't despise it as much now, but yeah, the first couple years, if I didn't have a resolve in me that I knew God placed me on the earth to do something here, if I wasn't solid on that, I would have bounced because there was absolute unrest in the home. There was very little stability. It's just very little stability. And there was little stability outside of the home as well. So it was chaos for Mia and I. And we had to make a decision, and we had to understand that the Disney movie that we had watched prior to marriage was not the reality of marriage and or the purpose of marriage. So we have to understand the root purpose of marriage and what it does in order to even think that we have a successful one. And so we said, hey, our happiness is secondary to this message, to this marriage. And that's weird. It's you get married to be happy. No, you don't. You get married to wreck yourself and figure out who you are. And God's so good, he'll pair a counterpart that is good enough at bringing every weakness out of you. And then he'll place you in close proximity so that you have to deal with each other in it. It's real growth there. Real disturbances. I want to talk about being a disruptor. Yeah. Let's go and get married. You're both going to be disrupting each other's lives and where you thought you were going,
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. And so in it, I just thank God. Thank God I know that you're doing something in my wife and through my wife that I could never do for myself. And even though it's challenging for me, praise God that I'm being challenged. I get bored really easy. If my wife didn't poke the hell out of me and challenge all of my weaknesses, I would get bored and go hyper-focus back into work because that's what I've done. Said that addictive mentality doesn't go away. I can still get addicted to work. I could also be addicted to my wife. I can also be addicted to my kids, and then so it's figuring out the healthy balance of it. But dude, I'll be open, we've had to seek a lot of counsel in our marriage. But not only together, individually.
I could tell by the way you were talking. There's a lot, I could hear a lot of things that my therapist tells me.
Yeah, okay, cool. I don't know if we talk about therapy openly or not, but yeah, we got to get better as men for our women to get better as women. Leaders go first, and we're leaders of the household. But that's hard because we've been embedded in a society that teaches us counter things to that. So by the grace of God, like Mia helped push me towards therapy, and it was the only way that we were going to stay married. But like, truth be told, that should have been me leading the charge. I should have been the one doing it. But thank God, like my wife was pushing for it and helped in that because I just wanted to get stubborn and work harder. It's my default. So she made me look in the mirror at that. And I push back on her on certain things too, you know? So it's both ways. It's both and. It's not easy, but we're 5 years married. We got 2 awesome, beautiful little kids. And we are still figuring it out. So 1 year in, you're doing great, dude. You're here. So I don't see any like
I'm
claw
feeling
marks on
pretty
your
good
face.
about
So.
it. Yeah. No, I'm feeling pretty good about it. We've made it this far, you know.
Yeah.
It's every day is the next step, you know.
But some of the questions that we talked about here, I had to talk about with my wife.
Yeah, you have to.
And it's uncomfortable sometimes because sometimes we don't even want to get that deep with each other. We just want to check out when we go home. And so when I talk about work, when I get in the vehicle to go home, my work is right before I go inside. I get my mind right to be as present as possible so I can be as loving and whatever as possible. But I had to realize that the work was before I go in, I need to get right or do all these things. So we're figuring out what is working for us, but it's been an absolute ping pong game of like trial and error. Like you just see what fits for you and what doesn't. And then you have to be okay that there is not one size fits all in a marriage. Your marriage could look a certain way, and that's okay. Their marriage could look a certain way, and that's okay. Cool. I could live with that. Honey, can you live with the way that we are? Yeah, I could. Cool. Let's just keep being the way we are. We'll figure it out. You want to figure it out together with me? Okay. All right. Like let's tap the pressure release a little bit and be like, we're figuring a lot of shit out right now. We're pretty messed up. Okay. Hey, I'm sorry, honey. Like, I got really pent up today on some stupid stuff, and I probably should have just had a conversation with you before I left work, and I didn't feel like I had time. But I realize now, like, the most important thing I could have done today was that. I'm sorry. You want to pattern interrupt your wife? Like, love her, truly. Don't do what you think she wants to do. Do what she needs because ask God, what does my wife need? Not what does she need me to do? Who does she need me to be? And then God, I can't be that, help. There has to be those transmittals though. Like it has to be that way. That's the only way you rewire your mind. Our society's got us really jacked up. So the work is rewiring our brain to be healthy. That's the work. And then in the health, then we get to thrive in whatever we do. Doesn't matter.
Holy crap. This has been a very, because we didn't have any topic of discussion. We said that something would come up.
Yeah.
I'm amazed.
You said it would be better than before the cameras turned on, and it got, this will linger a lot longer than anything else we could have talked about.
Good.
I want to ask Blake because as somebody who may be behind the cameras, listening or watching, somebody who may have been in my shoes,
Yeah.
right, and got to hear you and talk to you and hear what you are about, hear what your team is about. Who, if you had to compact it, who or what is the Shawn team and what is their mission and what are their values?
It's a light bearer of the things that matter. And I just came up with that on the spot, but I like it. Truth be told, I think that I trick people into talking about real estate just so I could talk to them. And so I'm big on investors. God brought me into this investor world. I did flips with Kevin back in 2016, 2017. So like it was not new. Flips are not new to me. Investments are not new to me. None of it is new. But God never gave me a passion for it until last year. And so anytime he ignites something in me, I know it's not for me. And it's really, there's a bunch of people that are wanting to do a bunch of good, but they don't know how. And they don't know like, really where to put it or who to do it with. And I want that to be the Shawn team.
How do they get a hold of you?
Good luck. Just kidding.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Honestly, you could send me you can send me a personal message on my Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Shawn Team's on YouTube, every social media outlet, just about. And if you go on the Shawn Team's page, if you looked at yesterday's stories, we're going to do stuff like, how can we pray for you today? We're going to have a verse on there. We're going to have something really, I want to be a form of encouragement. And so our social media is more driven on inspiration, encouragement. If people are looking for that, we invite you to follow us and join along. But I love one-on-one conversations with high-performing people because I love to get into the depths of their brain and explore that with them, because there were people that were willing to do that with me. Well, I'm gonna be completely honest. There wasn't anyone that did that with me. I had to do it with myself in dark corners with God. And so I just want to be that. And I don't know what it looks like. There's no, I don't even know. I just know that's why I'm here right now. So yeah, hit me up. I want to talk about whatever, but faith, marriage, important things. If you want to talk about real estate, we can talk about that too. Yeah. Yeah.
And the last thing I want to ask, in addition to any other, final things you want to share before we wrap up, but we have people who are listening who are seasoned real estate professionals, whether they're investors, agents, whoever it is. We have newbie people into real estate. And you said something funny, because I know it's the same thing that happened with both of us, that you don't stumble into real estate by choice. It's kind of by chance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we've always had our targeted audience of people who are new to the real estate space, who may be itching to, do their first deal or really figure out what this is all about. If you had to share one piece of advice for those listeners, for those watching, what would it be?
Say yes and fail as quickly as possible and as often as possible. Do not look at the money that you are losing in real estate as a deficit, but as an investment. Spend everything you have, lose everything you have. I hate to be this guy, but if you really love this real estate thing as much as you say you do, then lose everything you have for it and then figure out life. And if you're scared of that, then maybe you're scared of the success on the other side, but you have to be willing to fail that bad.
All the best performers we know lost it all and then built it up tenfold.
Yeah. I don't know any other way around it. I've watched too many stories where it's like, someone just tell me that they were just like a decent human and thrived. And it's like, well, Dave Ramsey, I guess, but like he doesn't tell the truth about how he got there, like he, like, so,
I see there's a resentment for Dave.
He made me feel really bad about myself for a long time. And there's a 1% of people that are going to change the world that can't get tripped up on things meant for the 90. But you have to decide if you are the 1%. And then if you decide that you are, you have to believe it. And if you can't do that, don't get in real estate, because those are the only ones that are going to survive it in this next season. I do not know if that was good either.
We're going to have a new segment once a month with Blake.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the Blake Shawn Show. And we're going to interview you. Guys, thank you for tuning into the podcast.
Yes.
Blake, thank you so much for your time and insight. Obviously, you've spent now decades going through a lot of stuff to be able to share what you just shared in an hour. But we will have to have you come back on and discuss some more topics, because it's clear that you've got a lot.
I'm down, and it's been an honor to be here. Honor to know you guys.
Thank you, bro.
All right, guys. See you next week.